So today we're going to do a video log. So I've got Nath with me, going to answer a bit more questions about if it fits your macros versus clean eating. I get asked so many questions on the topic, so I thought that what we would do is I'd grab Nath from his office, pull him in, sit him down and question him a little bit further on the information. So let's get started. So with if it fits your macros, or IIFYM, what is it? What does it stand for? Tell us a bit more detail.
Well, yeah, if it fits your macros, or IIFYM, is just what Sophie said, if it fits your macros.
So what are macros? What does it stand for?
So a macronutrient is either a protein, carb or fat. Then you've got sub macronutrients, things like fibre and stuff like that. So the main ones that we really want to talk about today is sort of your protein, carbs and fats. So really what we want to try and dismiss is that there's this big difference between if it fits your macros and clean eating. So you probably see a lot of people who follow if it fits your macros bag on clean eaters and vice versa. So clean eaters will bag on if it fits your macros and everything. The issue with this is that there doesn't have to be this real conflict between the two of them. So there just needs to be an understanding of what it is, and it's actually clean eaters do, if it fits your macros, and if it fits your macros can utilise some tips and hints from clean eaters. So there doesn't have to be that conflict.
So what else is there? So there's flexible dieting. Is that if it fits your macros? What does that sort of refer to?
So flexible dieting is exactly that. It's if it fits your macros. It's just being flexible with your nutrition, so you don't stick to a straight meal plan. So meal plans can be very useful in their own way, and it's not, again, this is something where if it fits your macros, people really rip on set dieters, people that eat the same thing day in, day out. It does have its place. It does teach consistency to a lot of people. It also helps with people just cleaning up their diet in general. So
weight fluctuation, water
weights and stuff like that. But just people that generally like to have a lot of fast foods and things like that, and don't really eat too much nutritionally sound food. So it's one of those things where where everyone can learn from everyone. Set dieters have. It's really good for teaching certain things. If it fits your macros, it's good for certain things. And you got your clean eaters, which are you don't have to bag on them. There's also another one which is starting to come to the forefront a little bit, which is kind of what people do if they're not fit, completely following if it fits your macros or one of those things. It's you've got your mindful eaters. So mindful eaters is people that understand what nutrition is, and it's kind of like the last little step between if it fits your macro. It's the last step after if it fits your macros, really. So you've got your set dieters, very set, eat the same thing day in, day out. Obviously, the disadvantages of that can be
they crave certain foods.
You can crave certain foods. If you're eating the same thing in, day out, you're potentially robbing yourself of certain micronutrients. So micronutrients are things like minerals and vitamins. So because you're not getting good variety of things, you find that you might be lacking in certain vitamin or a certain mineral or whatever it is. So,
however, the pros to that are that you could meal prep for the whole week in advance and know exactly what you're eating without even having to think twice of it. You can just grab your meal.
With busy lifestyles, and they get some time on a Sunday afternoon, they can prep for the week, and
all the hard work's done.
It means they can. It's a lot easier for them to stick to. So it's got its pros and cons. If it fits your macros.
For example, you could go out for lunch for if it fits your macros, and you
So the benefits of if it fits your macros is you can have that freedom to be able to have something that you can have a treat here and there and not feel guilty about. That's probably the biggest benefit about it. So it's you don't ruin your entire week or day or whatever it is by having a bit of a treat. You can actually fit it into the food allocated amount of protein, carbs, and fats, and it's not going to ruin everything. So it's got advantages there. The other advantages are, because if it's your macros and flexible diet, pretty much the same thing. The other advantages are that you can have a really good variety of food. So you can make sure that you're having different varieties of fruits and different varieties of vegetables, carbohydrates, proteins, fats. So you're not really ever lacking in micronutrient content. So
a lot of people have this stigma, I guess, that if it fits your macros, it's all about eating junk food. So a lot of people from the outside in would look at if it fits your macros and think, oh, they eat chocolate for breakfast and they have takeaway for lunch and then they have takeaway for dinner, which doesn't have to be the case. And I guess the message that we're trying to bring across today is that whenever you're starting a nutrition plan, it has to start with your macros. So regardless of the food that you actually calculate in your nutritional plan, it all comes back to the macros that you are set out for you.
Yeah, so being consistent. So if you're not consistent with your nutrition, you can't measure it, so you don't know what's happening. You can't measure change. So if you've changed, if you're eating a consistent amount of food, what you do is you can weigh yourself or measure yourself at the start of the week, and that by the end of the next week, if you're consistently the entire week, you can see that difference between what's happened last week and what happened this week, and you can make a calculated change to your nutrition based on the results of what happened during the week. If you're not following anything and you're eating whatever, you can't change anything, because it's not like it's a change of a food type that makes the difference. It's the actual protein, carbon, fats, and calorie content that makes the difference in body composition. So tracking is very important when it comes to wanting to improve body composition. However, there is the next stage, which I've mentioned before, which is that mindful eating, which is to the point where those people that don't want to have to live their life by counting food all the time, which is what Sophie does. She's got to the point where she was tracking and working out her food and getting her point to metabolism is in a really good, healthy position. Whereas now she doesn't have to track. She knows roughly exactly how much protein she's eating per day, how much carbs and how much fat and fiber and everything. So she's got a rough idea. She's happy with where her body's at.
So I don't have any specific goals at the moment. So I don't have a huge amount of weight to lose, or I'm not trying to compete. I'm just trying to maintain my health, and I'm loving being able to eat what I want. And I find that a lot of female clients get really caught up on calories and having a certain number over a food and having that negative feeling when they're eating foods, which I don't really believe in.
So the key word there was the maintenance. So she's wanting to maintain her physique at the moment, and that's something where she's built her food up, her metabolism up to the position where she's eating plenty of food, and she's got her body into a position where she's happy with how it is and how it looks. Now she can mindfully eat. She can eat, not having to count and restrict food to start with, and then you can calorie count. So it's kind of that next stage where someone like myself who's constantly trying to improve on muscle mass or decrease body fat or whatever it is, it's probably not the best way to go about it, because obviously you're not being able to measure change. However, someone who's maintaining and happy to maintain, and that's their lifestyle they want to do, it's something that's the best way to go about it, is to eventually work yourself out. So if you've got a good understanding of what protein, carbon, fats are in each food, by that stage you can start mindfully eating.
Awesome. So just to recap, if you were to create a nutritional plan for, say, if it fits your macros, would it be the exact same way to work out those calories and macros as a clean eating plan?
Yeah, exactly. So there's no set diet or whatever it is. You just got to work it out. And that's probably where getting someone who's qualified and getting a coach to do it isn't to do something like that for you. That there's plenty of calculators and stuff out there that give you a good rough estimate, a guide to be able to go by. But getting a good coach they're going to know exactly what sort of changes and things to make in between week to week things. So they'll be able to set you a program, set you up with some macros, and then from there they'll be able to measure change. They'll be able to take your measurements and then go about what's the best way to do it. So if you've increased weight, okay, what's the next? What are we going to do with the nutrition this week? If you've decreased weight or maintained, depending on your goals. So that they're just really good to be able to help you out, make changes, and also keep you accountable, because accountability is a big thing when it comes to nutrition, because we know that not everyone is accountable, and if you don't have that accountability, certain people, not everyone, but certain people find it hard to stick to something, even if it is your macros and you
consistency of it.
Yeah, and if you can eat whatever you want. However, all of a sudden that becomes the majority of it. A coach can sort of sit there and they can go, hang on, let's just rein that in. Percentages of how much good food you're eating compared to how much bad food you're eating, or minimally processed foods versus high processed foods is what I like to try and classify them as. It's a little bit skew if the highly processed foods are starting to come into higher percentages than minimally processed food. So let's try and be better on this week, sort of thing. So the coach can be really good to sort of keep you accountable, that sort of stuff as well.
Awesome. So just on that as well, so the macros, which are macronutrients, so carbohydrates are things like potatoes, pasta, bread, that's type of, I'm just doing a really brief overall top level, type thing. And then fats would be nuts, avocado, that side of things, protein, meats, legumes, beans. So that's what macros stand for, and yeah,
so you just got to be careful with that. Obviously things like if you're going for a protein source, chicken, it's just not straight chicken. It also has some fats. It doesn't have any carbohydrates.
Like oats, for example. A lot of people are surprised that oats have fats and protein in it.
Oats have quite a high amount of protein and fat in them per serve. Obviously, it's a majority of carb, so it's more of a carbohydrate type food. However, the protein
still does contain
content and fat content in it is considerably pretty good. So it's something that you just need to keep in contact. If you're going, okay, I'm going to increase my carbohydrates this week, or just my fats, you got to make sure that if you increase oats, for example, and all of a sudden your protein jumps up and your fats come up a little bit too, you might have to actually adjust somewhere else with another food. Your protein comes up by 3, 4, 5 grams, something, and it's starting to creep up a little bit too high and out of ranges that you probably should be in. Then you can start to drop protein from chicken. You can drop your 10 grams of chicken.
But if that even seems too daunting for some people out there, then that's why a meal plan is perfect for you. So if Nate was to say to one of his clients that we need to change that, so we needed to change their macronutrients, those meal plans are then done behind the scenes by Nate. So he goes and adjusts all of that to make sure that it sits where he wants them to, which is easy for a lot of people.
Yeah, it's a lot easier for other people to make the changes to the food themselves. They don't want to think about it. And it's one of those things where some people are happy to stick with meal plans, and we just let them have a bit of variety every now and then. We change the meal plan up every so often, try and include different fats and different carbohydrates.
And meal plans don't necessarily have to be restrictive. Like the bod, for example, we've got blueberry bread and banana bread, and a lot of people feel like with meal plans they are going to be on chicken and broccoli.
Yeah, and the meal plan can be whatever you want in it. As long as it's consistent and you stick to that every sort of day. What we usually do here is we usually write a meal plan up for someone starting out with, and that's sort of teaching them consistency, and then we try to teach them how to flexible diet off that. So be quite flexible off that. So we might look at it and go, okay, let's begin with the last meal. You've got this much amount of protein left for the day, this much amount of carbs left for the day, this much amount of fat left for the day. You make whatever you want to make at the end of the day, because most people have, at the end of the day, have a little bit more time. And that's sort of how we start to introduce a bit of flexible dieting. So, or we give them a day, one day a week you go, okay, let's, have a go at it. See how you go, flexible diet, track it all, and then see how that goes. And then you just sort of slowly teach people to work themselves away from a set diet.
And here at Hold Your Own, our goal is to make sure that people understand that this is a lifestyle. It's not, we are never going to tell people that it's just a 6-week thing and that's it, and then after 6 weeks they can go off and go back to whatever they were doing before. For us, it's about teaching them education for their entire life to be able to take with them. So that's really important for us to be able to give them those life skills so that they can
Yeah, so they can go on and they can do it themselves. And you know, we like to coach people and teach people how to do things. And like I said, some people, it's really good to know that some people forget, you know, their knowledge is increased when they come to us, and you know, after 2, 3, 4, 5 months, however long, they feel comfortable going off and doing it themselves. And then you've got others who like to have that accountability, and they'll stick with you for years on end. And, you know, we have clients like that as well. So, but in the end, you know, they know that they could go away from the program and be able to do everything that we're doing by themselves as well.
Awesome. So I think we've covered the If It Fits Your Macros versus clean eating and a bit more information on nutrition. So I hope that's helped you guys out today. But if there's any other topics that you want us to cover, I can always pull Nathan to my office and make sure that I rein him in and get him in here for a couple of little video logs for you all.